Okay, here we are, day 13 of 365 days of meditation. And today's meditation was great. I went into it feeling good this morning, and not surprisingly, sort of expectation effect took hold, and I went in feeling good, and the whole process felt good. Meditation itself felt sort of light and airy and easy and enjoyable, pleasant, pleasurable, floaty. Choose your word to describe it. Just generally a great meditation. And I started off, and there was still the body and the usual agitation when you sit down into meditation, or at least my experience with meditation, there's often agitation initially, and then I kind of decided to do a body scan. I was reminded of the body scan that Joe Dispenza does. That's where I learned it. I know that Yoga Nidra practice essentially is bringing your awareness to different parts of your body. I've done those as well. So that's what I did. After sort of just sitting there for a while, I began the body scan, and that's just bringing my awareness to a certain area of my body. And the way I like to do it is to bring awareness to a certain area of my body, like the shoulder, let's say. And then I will try to afterwards bring my awareness to sort of the space beyond my shoulder. And then I'll move to the next shoulder, and then the space beyond the shoulder, and then maybe the chest and the space beyond the chest. So I'm kind of, obviously with my eyes closed, shifting my focus from within my body to the outside of my body. So intero versus exteroception, and shifting my focus throughout the body as I scan it. And I do find that quite useful to relax if you are feeling antsy in your meditation. From there, I began sort of suggesting to my subconscious, or trying some mantras, and I then sort of asked the question, what would my life look like if I held these beliefs? The mantras that I'm suggesting are things that I would like to believe to replace existing beliefs that are limiting or holding me back in my life, and imagining what these new held beliefs would bring in my life, what my life would look like, and visualizing that future. And it was amazing, filled of joy, love, gratitude, even a sense of awe. There were some things that sort of popped into my head that I began visualizing that I was sort of surprised that I visualized. So that's always kind of neat. So that was yesterday's meditation. It was wonderful, or today's meditation rather, sorry. It was wonderful. Really, really enjoyed it. So with that said, now I want to sort of revisit what happened yesterday. Yesterday, if you've watched that video, you know that I was very sort of agitated, irritated. I shot my day 12 video right after meditating, and I went back and watched that video later in the day, and I noticed a few things. And also sort of reframed a few things. One, I realized that my body being very anxious and kind of really sort of sore and aware of it yesterday was good on a number of fronts. One, it meant that there was great communication between the brain and body, or between the subconscious and the conscious, or maybe both. The nervous system throughout the body communicating with the nervous system in the brain, or the brain itself, that I was run down and tired, stiff and sore. And that was its way of telling me that I need more sleep. I need to rest, or I'm going to start to get sick, potentially. So that was very good. It meant there was a sort of greater level of connection, communication, coherence between brain and body, subconscious and conscious, which from a being able to self-regulate perspective, but just from a general health perspective, is a great thing. So just like you become more aware of your thinking processes when you meditate, you also become more aware of what's happening within your body when you meditate. Second thing I noticed when I was watching that video from yesterday was that the negativity bias was in full effect. So I had talked about all the things in the meditation yesterday that were unpleasant. I didn't even touch on the fact that when I was doing my visualization at the end of the meditation, I felt a tremendous sense of gratitude, like overcome with gratitude during my visualization yesterday, and I completely glossed over that in the video. And you can see from a mental health perspective how focusing on the negative or having that negativity bias can lead to more focus on the negative thoughts associated with that experience, and then more focus on the negative thoughts associated with that experience. And the more you keep bringing your attention to that and having those same thoughts, the more you fire your brain and wire your brain to make it easier to have those thoughts and recall that negative experience. And if you keep doing it for a while, you may become depressed or anxious, or you may just be in a foul mood. But yeah, that's how sort of the negativity bias can be maladaptive. Obviously, in extreme cases, if you have an extremely emotionally charged event, it can sort of emboss on your memory in the form of PTSD, which is not helpful. From my understanding, the negativity bias is a survival mechanism. Initially, if there was a lion on the Serengeti and it chases us, you want to mark that experience as significant. It's highly emotionally charged. The more emotionally charged, the more significant. Anything marked as significant, when you go to sleep, your brain will pick up those events and rewire your brain so that you're able to recall that event in the form of memory. So that's why we have a negativity bias, at least to my understanding. But you can see how in extreme cases like PTSD, or even in depression or anxiety, it can become maladaptive. So it was cool to sort of notice myself and the negativity bias in the video itself yesterday. One of the other great things that I realized after was that the refractory period was quite short. So I went from a negative emotional state of being sort of bothered by the video and confused and a little bit irritated and anxious. And within a couple hours, I was feeling great again yesterday. By the evening, I was feeling great. I kind of wrote about the experience, sort of reframed it, reorganized the information, reconciled it a little bit, and I felt great afterwards. So it was awesome that I was able to go from sort of a not great mood to a great mood pretty fast, which means I was able to catch the thoughts and correct them, and as a result started feeling better. Because again, I know I've mentioned this before, but the way we feel is directly linked to what we're thinking. So that was awesome to see that short refractory period. I also, after sort of revisiting that video, realized that the chaos I was experiencing, that sort of discomfort, that dis-ease in the body, again, it was a good thing because it means that I am moving from a state of thinking the same habitual thoughts, feeling the same way, and behaving or acting or, taking the same actions that I would normally take, to moving into a state where I'm thinking new thoughts, feeling a new way, behaving or taking action in a new way. And so whenever you start to do that, there's going to be discomfort. The reason there's discomfort is because the brain and body, they're sort of designed to operate in low energy mode when possible, sort of a state of homeostasis where there's no change going on, where everything's just kind of running along. And that's why we can get into these loops of habit and loops of thinking quite easily. When you try to change things, the reason it's quite difficult is because you're pulling yourself out of homeostasis, and there's a tremendous amount of energy involved, not only to learn a new skill or learn new information, anyone who's done that, but to learn a new way of thinking, to learn a new set of beliefs, and really those are learned either consciously or unconsciously. That requires a tremendous amount of effort, and the actual rewiring of the nervous system and the rewiring of the brain that occurs when you're learning a new skill set or learning new information or learning a new way of thinking or learning a new set of beliefs, that actual rewiring that occurs requires a tremendous amount of energy as well. So the fact that I can feel my body in this sort of state of dissonance means that these changes are occurring. I'm going from the old way of thinking, feeling, and behaving to the new way of thinking, feeling, and behaving, and I'm sort of in the middle, the mushy middle right now. And as a result, the body wants to pull me back into the old state because it's automatic and requires no effort. And again, it wants to pull me away from the new state the new habits I'm trying to form, because right now they require a tremendous amount of effort. and as a result, a tremendous amount of energy. So the body's just trying to do what it believes is in its best interest, which is to conserve energy, so that if I do need it to fight off a lion or tiger or bear, oh my, which is not realistic in this day and age, but if I did need it for that, the energy would be available. So yeah, I guess that is all I wanted to talk about today. All in all, the whole event was, the events of the last couple of days were really good, very sort of informative. I was able to reflect and learn something about myself, learn something about my practice. I hope maybe you learned something about meditation, or maybe if you're going through some of this dissonance right now, or sort of, to borrow a Huberman term, limbic friction, or chaos in your practice. Now maybe you have a better understanding as to why. In closing, if you are feeling out of control in your life, if you are feeling excessively anxious, depressed, God forbid, suicidal, or experiencing suicidal ideation, if you just feel like your life is, not the temporary chaos that I'm talking about, or discomfort, but sort of that it is spiraling out of control, talk to somebody. I know I've said this before. Every time I've had a conversation about mental health, I imagine it is going to be a train wreck in advance. Afterwards, I'm always grateful I had the conversation. So talk to somebody, help yourself, and help remove the stigma around mental health. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.